Time to go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline and bring in voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Dave Thomas. And before we chat about this week and this week's game, I want to go back to Friday, and I want to get your thoughts. I thought one of the most noticeable things, or one of the most telling things about the game Friday night, although the Riders won, is what an effort that Ryan Dinwiddie's Toronto Argonauts put in. Without their top offensive player, Nick Arbuckle, you had no Witten McManus, their top player on defense, but man, that Argo team, they played tough.
How about Jared Dagey? Right off the hop, Jared Dagey, you know what? He took an absolute pounding, and this was his opportunity to make a statement. And if there's one thing that you can really see the similarities between not only Ryan Dinwiddie, but Corey Mace, is the way that they have their teams and cultures set, right? There's a lot of symmetry there, and you would expect that with two gentlemen that worked for as long as they had. But Jared Dagey got absolutely plowed into the turf. But as Coach Mace says quite often, is that it's a next man up. The standard is the standard, and it's your opportunity to go out and show that you belong. And that's what Jared Dagey took it as, right? Like, again, he knows what the depth chart looks like. He knows that Nick Arbuckle is hurt and going to come back. He knows that Chad Kelly is hurt, and who knows what it's going to be. So he had to put something down on film, and that's Luke's big thing too. And he's bang on when he says it. It's a opportunity for you to build your resume. And boy, if there's one thing he showed, he's absolute tough as nails. And believe you me, if there's a team that's looking for a quarterback or quarterback depth, Jared Dagey is probably going to be one of the guys that are talked about.
Do you think after they pulled him out of the game for the concussion spotter, like once and then again, that he was allowed to continue to finish the game? Because after a while, I felt bad watching him taking that abuse and his head bouncing off the turf. And I'm like, if the first one didn't get him, the second or third one must have. I was wondering about that from a player safety standpoint.
Well, here's what I get it. It's 2025 and nobody trusts anything about anyone anywhere, it seems. But at some point you have to go ahead and say, okay, these are medical professionals that have been trained. Again, they have gone to school. They have got their degrees. They know much more about anything to do with medical and assessment of injury than I would ever dream of having. And while me from the outside looking in say, wow, how can you let them go back in? Well, if you're a medical professional on the sideline, that is your job and that is your profession. And if in your professional opinion, the player is safe and okay to play, who are we to doubt that? It's kind of the same with Zach Collaros. Like, there was Milt Stegall called for him to hang him up right after he took that big shot. You know what? I can understand that there was a lot of care and there was a lot of personal emotion in it, but these teams hire the very best medical professionals that they can. And that goes to the league too. Now, again, I get it. I'm like, ooh, I maybe would have pulled him out or maybe thought of that. But again, that's just me, and I'm not a medical professional. So yes, are you surprised that he went back in? Maybe, but if the medical professionals say you can go back in, you're going to go back in. And Jared Dagey has got a family to feed, and he's got to put food on the table. And like I said, this was his resume opportunity, right? To build the resume. So if the medical professionals say yes, who am I to judge?
I changed my opinion on the Zach Collaros thing because I was I'm like, no, he said he's good. He's a gunslinger. Let him go down fighting in the game he loves, and if that's what takes him out, not something that isn't. So Zach's smart enough. He'll make his own decisions, and I think he said he's content to live with the consequences of what his decisions are. And I'm like, all right, he's good, and I'm good, because go down with a fight as without it. I was impressed. The Riders win 27-19. Brett Lothar has a good night, kicks 5 field goals. But when you're kicking 5 field goals, it means when you got close to the red zone, you weren't cashing in, getting touchdowns. Now, a lot of the offenses in the CFL from some teams like Montreal and BC are ramping up right now, and they are converting, and they're getting that red zone percentage up there, where we're seeing moving the ball in the 20s. What did you see that maybe didn't lead to success once we got inside the red zone?
Well, we didn't get inside the red zone technically, right? As Brett's kicks were from 37, 41 twice, and then he had a longer one as well. So we didn't get quite to the red zone, which I know is of little comfort to anyone. It's just semantics, really, at the end of the day. But the team, they get down and they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot to steal what Trevor Harris points out. He says, you know what, like it's just one missed assignment or maybe a drop football or a football that he puts in the wrong spot or maybe a wrong read at the line of scrimmage that just hasn't got the team operating at that full capacity. If you know what I mean, like it's an 8-cylinder engine. They're running on 7.5 right now. And once that half a cylinder gets going and firing in sync with everything else, look out. And just really, we've only seen that a couple of times this year, but the team is very, very confident that they're going to get to that level and be at that level when it matters most, which is in the West Final in a few weeks from now.
I think it was 11 tackles, 1 interception, and 1 sack. That was A.J. Allen. Is he the best Saskatchewan Rough Rider on defense right now?
Ooh, hard to argue. Malik Carney having an amazing year up front, of course, amongst the league leader in sacks in the defensive backfield. CJ Rivas has only done everything that's been asked of him, whether it's playing the halfback spot or now he's moved to safety, of course, due to the injuries that have compounded at that position. But yeah, A.J. Allen, I would suggest yes. He is definitely having a defensive player of the year type year for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And I don't think it was completely unexpected. Coach Mace talked to me about him today. He said, you know, we knew what he could do on special teams and we kind of challenged him a little bit. We knew where the trajectory and where the ceiling might be. And he went ahead and he just took off. And again, he was given an opportunity to play when CJ Avery went down in week number 1. And A.J. Allen is just that, taken the opportunity and ran with it and been special all the way through.
I don't mind this American backfield with the American safety. Got CJ Rivas, Redwine, and Sapp. For guys that are just new to the league, they haven't even played 5 games. They're looking pretty comfortable out there. And I know that Tavon Campbell instantly, when he's back, is back. He gets his spot back. But how they've patched this thing together and what we saw on Friday night against the Argos, I kind of like what they're doing in a short amount of time with not a lot of continuity together.
No, you're right. And again, there's going to be the detractors that say, well, you know, they did face Jarrett Daggy, which is true. And well, they were playing Ottawa and they had Dustin Crum and Drew Brown, who looks like he already wants to be a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers playing for them. Those are what the detractors will say, by the way. But when it comes to what they've been able to piece together, you're right. And let's not forget, these aren't raw rookies out of college. These are guys like that have played some in the NFL, right? So you've got Sheldrick Redwine, who's played in the Cleveland Browns organization for a number of years, was a 4th-round draft pick. He's proving what he can do. And, you know, absolutely the team would love to have Marcus Sayles. They would absolutely love to have Roland Milligan Jr. and, yes, Tavon Campbell all back in the backfield. But for now, you're right. But proof is going to be in the pudding this week because, let's face it, Zach Collaros, he knows what to do when it comes to picking apart defenses. Now, they haven't gone deep, which has kind of been the Riders' Achilles heel as far as the pass game is concerned. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Zach try to go over the top a little bit and see what he can manipulate with his eyes.
All right, let's get into the Coach Mace comments here. I think I'll let you take it from here, Colson, if we're ready to go. You had a chance to talk to Coach Mace after a closed practice today.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we just started the conversation off by talking a little bit about what it was that he was going to expect when it came to facing a Winnipeg Blue Bombers team that definitely has a lot to play for this week.
The exact same thing that we see and try to achieve every week. The detail-oriented football, energy, juice, passion, and a physical brand. Like we're still trying to become the team that we want to become. And it doesn't matter who's out there. You're in that locker room, you're part of this team. So the standard doesn't change.
Yeah, and the standard is going to be a very intense game. As I mentioned, the Blue Bombers do have a lot to play for this week. And when the Riders and Bombers get together, you know one thing's for sure. It is going to be emotional, and you also know that it's going to be physical. And I asked Coach if that is what he's expecting, another physical battle at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, and they're built off of that. They're a physical football team. Their defense flies around, likes to hit. Their offensive line is a physical group. Brady obviously plays physical, their receiving core. They do a good job trying to block as well. So, we try to pride ourselves on the same thing as far as a makeup of our football team, and it should be that. I mean, it is what it is as far as. As you said, the Riders versus Bombers. Everybody, I think, expects what kind of ball game that's going to be, and man, that's what it's got to be, especially this time of year.
And maybe to conclude the conversation, this is the game within the game that you got to love, right? There's that chess match that, okay, if I move this safety here, what am I going to do? Well, for Coach Mace, right, he's also the play caller when it comes to the defensive side of the football. And, right, there's got to be a fine line because he's got to call what he needs to call to get the job done, but he also doesn't want to call what he doesn't need to in order to preserve some secrets, if you will, as they move forward. So I asked him what that fine line was like.
Yeah, I think it depends. Every situation's kind of different, but for depending on your opponent, specifically this week, you're talking about a really good football team that's been really good for a long time, excellent run game, and you can see they could put up 40 in a hurry if you're not on it. So, for us as play callers, is we gotta make sure we're calling stuff to help us win the game. Period. So, that's always going to be the focus.
So there you go, head coach to Corey Mace today at practice. It was a closed session, so we tried to read into as much as we could as far as players that will go. We know, for example, that neither Dante Myers nor Keyshawn Johnson are going to be able to go. AJ Ouellette is going to be sitting this week. Jake Mayer is going to be starting at quarterback. All signs point to Braden Knoll playing center this week with Logan Furland not going to be in the lineup by the looks of things right now. Defensively, it looks like everybody that's available is going to be going because there's not a lot of players that you can switch in and out right now with the Riders' injury situation. But it does look like there is some good news on the horizon with Nelson Lacombe becoming more active this week. Same with Jackson Ford as well. Micah Johnson is going to be out. So again, Mike has deserved it as a veteran and a pro.
Yeah.
He takes on double teams
Same
every
with AJ. Yeah.
So
Trevor
I think
Harris,
it all makes
AJ Ouellette, and Micah Johnson. Yeah. Like load management wise, everybody else, if you kind of can, you should. I know Brett Lothar says he was available. He's been still dealing with that back injury. And I think if they win this week, you'd maybe try the other guy next week. I don't know. We had Kent Majiri on yesterday, and we're talking to him about when you bring in a kicker with a few weeks left in the season that is brand new to the CFL, you're starting from square one, basically, and have to get them up to speed as fast as you possibly can. And that's a challenge. No different than when you're bringing in some of these guys, these new DBs that never played the Canadian game before. How fast can you assimilate? Out of the Bombers. Now, when the Bombers beat the Ticats it was the Ticats. They played well. I thought they played well in Edmonton. They didn't win, but I thought they played well. Edmonton just was able to, there was a couple of key plays that they capitalized on. And so what are we thinking out of the Bombers? I think, like you had said, Zach Collaros is going to test that secondary. He's probably going to go deep, but you have to think they've got to get the running game going, that healthy dose as the weather gets colder. And if they're going to be in the playoffs, Brady Oliveira, if they're going to win, he's going to be part of that formula. Do you think it's just going to be like standard Bomber ball, run and then gun when the gun is there?
I would say yes, and I would have said yes before the Labor Day rematch or even the Labor Day Classic, because to me, and again, I'm not an offensive guru, but to me, if I'm looking at the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I see that they give up 71.6 yards per game in rushing offense. So they don't allow a lot, but I think you still have to go ahead and run the ball to at least force the Riders to consider the fact that you might do that. If you go back to Labor Day, Brady Oliveira ran the ball 9 times, and they put the ball in his chest a couple more times in that Labor Day rematch, but again, I don't know what it is that teams seem to shy away from running the ball against the Riders' defense without even trying. There's zero commitment to the run game. And to me, I would run the ball a little bit. If you've seen the 2 wins the Calgary Stampeders scored over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Dietrich Mills, who, by the way, is running over everybody in the league, but Dietrich Mills was fantastic in those games, allowing the diversified offense and being able to run play action, run pass option. You list that goes on from there. Same with the Montreal Alouettes, right? When they come into town, they bring in a running back. Now their starter gets injured on the first play. Oh, well, no problem. We don't have Tease. That's all right. We'll just go to the second man up, and ran for some great distance and forced the Riders to consider the run game. Same with Edmonton, Justin Rankin, right? So to me, if I'm the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? I've got to go ahead and stay true to my running game and be patient and allow it to develop. Whether they will or not, we'll have to wait and see.
You mentioned Dietrich Mills and the Calgary Stampeders. I know there's a couple games left. I'll get your thoughts. To me, the Calgary Stampeders saved their season last week when they beat Hamilton 37-20. I know they weren't technically eliminated, but they needed to win a football game. And I think they got back to playing some Stampeder football, a little bit of that formula that helped them win earlier. They ran, the defensive line played well, big play VA didn't make a ton of mistakes. They were able to cobble it all together, and they made Hamilton look pretty pedestrian.
I think they saved their season before they even took the field. When Flo Orimolade went down, he showed you what he means to that team in terms of leadership, in terms of effort level, in terms of physicality. That was why Calgary went out and got him in the offseason. And to me, he was the tone setter. He was lost to injury, of course, with an Achilles injury. And so they went ahead and they brought in Lorenzo Molden from Ottawa. And they did that before the game. And I think by doing that, it set a new tone. It established a new mark. It established, hey, we need to be physical and we have to play. And I think that was a genius move, bolstering the lineup with something that they were lacking with Orimolade, going down. And finding what their weakness was and then reinstilling that culture that had been built along both the offensive and defensive line to start the year in Calgary.
We mentioned that Edmonton beat Winnipeg 25-20. The Elks just won't go away. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. It's a valiant effort, but you can't spot anybody a 7-game lead in the West Division of the CFL and then expect to just miraculously turn it around and expect everybody else to lose and you win. I like the story. If we were script writers, Dave, this is a good story where Cody Fajardo leads them into the playoffs and then to a Grey Cup victory, but I just don't think there's enough juice there that this is going to pan out. I think there's just too many factors against them.
Elks are running out of road real quick.
Yeah.
You know, I've been talking with some of my colleagues in Edmonton this week, and it's interesting because Mark Killam is kind of under fire right now. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he didn't change quarterbacks at the start of the year. It's the fact that late in the ball game, right, when they're up by 5 points, instead of trying to push the ball downfield, instead of trying to go ahead and get the touchdown with the 2-point convert, which then wins you the season series over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and really gives you an opportunity to make a push to get into the playoffs. He stayed conservative, making sure they got the win first. And if you watch the game, Cody Fajardo was beside himself. He couldn't believe he was being pulled off the field on 3rd down. And a lot of the folks in Edmonton are kind of talking about that a little bit now. Oh, he's a rookie head coach. And I don't think so. I think that mission 1 is securing the victory. Yeah. And if you go back to the Riders and Calgary Stampeders, remember Coach Mace was asked going into McMahon Stadium, if you get into a situation where you need to win the season series, are you thinking about that? And he's like, no, we're concentrating on winning the game first. And like I say, it's an interesting conversation to have. I'm very curious in what other people's opinions are. To me, I'm kind of with you. You got to win the game first. Otherwise, you're completely eliminated. The icing on the cake was to go ahead and get the 13-point differential.
Yeah, how many times have we seen it? You know, the team is driving, and in a perfect world, it works out. But let's say Cody hangs one out to the far flat, gets picked off in return for a touchdown, and then they lose 27-25. And then what? That's every coach is either stacking something in the good bank account to keep him around, or he's putting something in the negative part of that account on the other side that's going to get him out of there. And Killam needs as much positive. And I wonder, Dave, if early on in the season, was it Killam's decision? Let's say after 3 games, he's like, all right, I've seen enough of Trey Ford. Mark Killam has been around a lot of good quarterbacks in Calgary. 2 decades worth. He knows what a good CFL quarterback is. Don't tell me it took till week 7. I want to know, and we're never going to know. Was it his decision? Could he have said sooner, he's not our guy. We got to put Cody in. We have to salvage the season.
All I'll tell you is there's an awful lot of banners and posters around Commonwealth Stadium at Edmonton with quarterback Trey Ford's picture on them.
Yeah. And I think that's what leads you to believe. Mark Killam has been around some of the best quarterbacks to ever play in the CFL when he was a special teams coach with the Calgary Stampeders for 2 decades. He would know, because he is part of the Huffnagel tree, what a good quarterback in this league is. And they've got it in Cody, which is great. And if he's not signed, sign him, because having him on your team gives you a chance. And if I'm a fan, and there's not many of them showing up at games, and I get it, there was an Oilers game on Saturday. Didn't look like a huge crowd, but that's the one thing to cheer for. Montreal took care of Ottawa on Thanksgiving Day. I don't think anybody was thinking that the Red Blacks were going to pull an upset. Montreal gets them again this week, but in Ottawa. If Bob Dice is not the head coach, do you wait till the end of the season? It didn't happen after Monday's game. Will it happen after this game? How does that situation play out?
I don't know why you would. To be honest, like, what's changing the head coach going to do right now? Absolutely nothing, I would submit. Obviously, Bob Dice and Sean Burke are working in tandem right now, and they're developing a plan for how they're going to approach this. And it'll be interesting to see. I know that they were called out quite substantially, dare I say, on the TSN broadcast about, well, why aren't you playing the third stringer? Or why are you playing this player and not this player? And again, they've got decisions to make in Ottawa, and it starts from the top down. And again, I don't know why you would make that change now. I don't think it changes anything at all. Players know that they're playing for jobs next year. Everybody knows what's at stake. The game plan has been installed. You're not going to change an offense or a defense or a special teams package. So I think you roll it out and you assess absolutely everything, and then you go forward from there.
I think Rick Campbell will be the next head coach of the Ottawa Red Blacks. He's already on staff there. He's the special teams coordinator. I think he's very much overqualified for that job. But I would love to see if in these past couple, like, how would he run that roster with those guys? Because he can't change a lot. Sean Burke, like, there's nothing to change, but how would Rick Campbell, if he is that guy? And then the other thing too, Dave, there's also the coaching cap that comes into play. You can't just get rid of guys and bring in whole new staffs because you got to get paid. I hate that rule. I wish Stu Johnson would change that. I wish they would make the roster, increase the salary cap, make the rosters bigger, like Suit said, so you could have a complete team of guys that just play specials, even if it's 3 or 4 players to the roster, and get rid of the coaching cap so you can have the best of the best at all times in the league. That's, I think, one of the things.
The biggest question I'll give you right now, I think that Ottawa needs to answer is Drew Brown. Because we have seen Drew Brown at his best, but he's got a losing record as a starting quarterback for the Ottawa Red Blacks. So is Drew Brown going to be the answer, the solution at quarterback? Is it Dustin Crum? Is it someone else? That's the first player personnel question that they've got to ask and answer.
Well, at least with Dustin Crum, he stays healthy. He stays on the field. He doesn't get hurt. Drew Brown has been hurt. That's not necessarily his fault, but at least with Dustin Crum, the games what I've watched, when he comes in, he seems to give them a little bit of spark. He's a running threat, which I think is always helpful, especially in the CFL, and he is able to stay healthy. Looking at the games this week, Edmonton's at BC. Matthew Betts seems unstoppable on that D-line for BC. The offense is rolling. I think Edmonton may meet their match this week. The Lions are just on the trajectory. They're going in the right direction at the right time.
And it means a lot to the Lions to get a home playoff date. So they're going to be rolling and pushing. I'd like to know what happened with Matthew Betts. Did he figure out the defense, or did the defense figure out how to go ahead and put him in, if you know what I mean? Because something has clicked mid-season and boom, there he is flying now, being the player that we thought we would see for 18 games.
you've seen this before, Dave, when there are players that are unblockable, and he right now is in the zone where he is unblockable. And it's not like they're not double teaming him and he's still getting to the quarterback. And you forgot, because he was kind of, ever since he came back from the NFL, it was kind of one of those NFL hangovers, and you saw flashes, but now he just seems like, uh-oh. And Nathan Rourke, not only, the thing that's impressive about Nathan, to me, is great arm, good decision making. But do you find that he's incredibly smart when he chooses to run?
You know, I had a great conversation with Farhan Lalji, and we were just talking about Nathan Rourke in general. And he said the one thing that Nathan needed to figure out was how to chill out, because he took everything to heart. Every missed play, it just kept piling on. And it seems like he's been able to go ahead and shake that off. Okay, it was an incompletion. Okay, it was a fumble. Okay, we got scored on. He doesn't internalize that anymore. He's not venting or anything, but he's allowing himself to move forward from it. And I think that's a huge key for him.